Welcome to the first ever edition of Schein Time. We have a fantastic show for you today. The NFL offseason is moving fast and furious. We have a ton of NFL info to get into and a lot of takes. Should LA fans be dreaming of an all-LA Super Bowl? Plus, we name names for the early winners and losers. A California nightmare for the Knicks in Los Angeles as New York drops back-to-back games to the Lakers and the Clippers. 6 days from Selection Sunday, and St. John's Hall of Fame coach Rick Pitino joins us. And while Aaron Judge and Paul Skeens and Team USA dominate the WBC, we have some strong words for Tariq Skubal. Shine Time starts right now. Vegas, baby. Vegas. No team hit the jackpot more to start free agency than the Vegas Raiders. You want to talk about hitting the jackpot to start? I got to tell you, this is a whole new team and a whole new direction. And if you are a fan of the Raiders, and I know we have Raiders fans coast to coast and obviously in Las Vegas, I'm telling you, you guys should be foaming at the mouth. You trade Max Crosby, who was never going to play another down for you. Think about it this way, right? And this is not spin. Ravens made a terrific trade, but we're talking about a ball player who demanded a trade, did it privately, but let's call it like it is. This was a trade demand, and he just had surgery at the end of last year, and he's pushing 30. And John Spytek, your absolutely fantastic general manager, got not one, two first-round picks. I didn't think that was possible. I thought it was going to be a first-round plus, and that was an unbelievable move. And that set up everything here for this organization to shine. I mean, you want to talk about shine time? This is what the Raiders are doing right now. When you take a look at this trade, you get a couple of first-round picks. Obviously, you know with the number one pick in the draft, you're going to take Fernando Mendoza. And what this team did, first wave of free agency, I mean, you could color me absolutely impressed. To get Tyler Lindenbaum was unbelievable. Look at that contract. And he's worth every single penny. I think he's a top 2 center in the NFL. He's sensational. Walker's great. Dean is great. Excellent defensive ball players who come from legitimate programs, and that to me matters, winning organizations, and that's something the Raiders needed. You take a look at Naylor. I thought that was a terrific move because there was a need for speed and obviously a vacancy when you look at the depth chart, and I'm just going to call it like it is. The Raiders are absolutely the best team this offseason starting in January. You look right from Clint Kubiak, right? And Clint Kubiak, to me, that's akin to when the Bears 1 year ago hired Ben Johnson. I feel the exact same way. Kubiak, his dad, obviously, Gary was a head coach, brilliant offensive coordinator. I've talked at length to the former Raider, Derek Carr, who's with him in New Orleans. He absolutely loves him. Look at what he did in Seattle this past year with our guy Sam Darnold, career year, of course, for Sam, winning the Super Bowl. I am just impressed. I'm obsessed. And I'm not selling anything low here when it comes to Vegas. Seriously. I think the Raiders are going to be vastly improved. I'm a big believer in Fernando Mendoza. I think as a prospect, he's, 2008 Matt Ryan coming out of Boston College. As an NFL quarterback, I think he's Jared Goff, and I mean that as a compliment. That's how I think he ultimately is going to play in the league. I think the Raiders can pick a defensive player, go for more offensive line help. With that 14th pick in the draft, with more picks on day number 2, Raiders are cleaning up. And I really think this team is going to be strong right away. Last year was a disaster. I don't think it even gets talked about enough. For all these Raiders fans, I mean, even think about, the Max Crosby era, right? Gruden, Bisaccia, McDaniels, Pierce, and somehow Pete Carroll was the worst of the bunch. Didn't have that on my bingo card, and I was dead wrong on it. And Pete hired his son, and that was a disaster. And this offensive line, worst in the game last year. They ruined Ashton Genty. They had the worst rushing offense in the entire league. The Raiders are going to be great this year. I'm just telling you. They're going to win 8+ games. They're going to be in the conversation for the wild card. Everything I thought about the Raiders a year ago, forget about it. Burn those tapes. Raiders are going to be a vastly improved team. I think Mendoza, look, quarterbacks, I mean, Mendoza's got it all. He's going to have a great rookie season. Linderbaum was everything. Getting Kim in the middle of that offensive line, he's a culture setter. He's just a dude. He's what you want in the middle of that offense, and Vegas absolutely hit the jackpot. I am obsessed. I am impressed. I can't get enough. I can't believe they traded Max Crosby and won. I am obsessed here with the Vegas Raiders and what they did to start the offseason. How about the New York Football Giants? Here's what I love. This team is officially John Harbaugh's Giants. And this is why, if you are a Giants fan and you see this man smiling, you should be smiling too. Look, the Giants, they're a historically great franchise. It also has been at least a decade since you could call them competent, watchable, or relevant. The New York Football Giants needed one guy to run this organization. They got him. Our guy, John Harbaugh, who needed to go in Baltimore, and I was okay with that. But this is a Hall of Famer, an adult, someone who understands roster building and culture building and in-game management, things that have lacked with, Daboll and Shermer and Judge. And, we could go through all the, has-beens and never will-be's the Giants have had when you look at the coaches since, they got rid of Tom Coughlin, which I'll never forgive them for. What the Giants did yesterday was dreamy. And I know you have some members of the media elites or nervous Nelly Giants fans worried that, Tennessee Titans somehow let Brian Daboll control free agency and give former Giants blank checks. Please. They brought the right tackle back, and that was huge. What the Giants did yesterday is they brought in Harbaugh's guys. Like, we made sure in our first ever edition of Shine Time, we have a category of the Ravens they brought in. Like, I'm ready for them to sign Poe, the Ravens mascot. I love this. Isaiah Likely, that's exactly what Jackson Dart needs. Stout is tremendous. That Tremaine Edmonds signing middle of that defense was awesome. This morning they bring in Greg Newsome. This is terrific. And again, they bring back the right tackle, which to me, that was paramount. Absolutely, positively had to happen. For years, it would drive me nuts when you had Giants fans, basically saying, oh, this organization could do no wrong. Well, they did a lot wrong. And you look at the win-loss record and the winning percentage over the last 10 years, like worst in the league kind of wrong. It's okay now to believe. It's okay that you have a coach that can go out and make a difference. He already is in free agency. He's bringing in his guys. He's changed the entire culture, changed the building. And you can start dreaming big and believing when it comes to the Giants because of our guy, John Harbaugh, for this upcoming season. Now, I think the team that had the best start to free agency, the Vegas Raiders, but the single best pickup of any team, Mike Evans and the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, this is absolutely striking gold. Mike Evans is a first ballot Hall of Famer. And if he played for a more national team like the Cowboys, I wouldn't even have to sell you on that. First ballot. Go ask Tom Brady what he thought of throwing to Mike Evans and comparing him to the likes of Randy Moss and Rob Gronkowski. I mean, Mike Evans is special. And you take a look at how consistent he is, and last year the streak ended after 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Look, he's going to be back. He's going to be playing for this guy, Kyle Shanahan, and this guy, John Lynch, knows exactly what he's doing. And we're talking about a spot in a situation where Mike Evans is your number one receiver with the San Francisco 49ers. And to me, it's huge. Last year at this time, I said that the number one free agent pickup that would impact the season, and I nailed it, would be Davante Adams and the Rams in terms of play, but also the impact on the ball club. That's how I feel about Mike Evans. Look, Pearsall's really good, but obviously he's young. You have Brock Purdy, Brock and roll, absolutely love him. CMC is special. I'm not worried about the Trent Williams situation. Trent Williams, he just needs to, find, week one for the 49ers. I don't worry about it. He knows the offense. He knows the playbook. You don't have to worry about, whether or not he's going to demand the trade. You can't get equal value for him. He'll be there. They'll give him a couple extra bucks, and I'm not worried about Trent Williams. The Niners, to me, right now are the second best team in the NFC. It's Rams number one. It's 49ers number two. What Kyle Shanahan did last year was unbelievable with all those injuries. Love what they did for the new defensive coordinator. Getting Bosa back, obviously. Getting Warner back, obviously. Mike Evans, to me, professionalism, his play, his body control, his hands. This is the move of the offseason. In San Francisco, they should be thinking about nothing else other than going out and winning the division. That's number one. And then having the ability to ultimately get home games in Santa Clara and making a run to the Super Bowl. Mike Evans and Kyle Shanahan's offense, to me, that is everything. That is my number one move to start the NFL offseason. Much more to do in the NFL coming up in a few minutes, but all rise for Aaron Judge and Team USA. All rise, baby. I got to tell you, I am so obsessed with the WBC. I can't get enough. And as a Yankee fan, there is such joy in watching Aaron Judge hit bombs in the WBC, throwing out a runner at third base last night. There is such an unbelievable feel to this WBC. Watching it on Fox with Joe Davis and John Smoltz and the A-team and the presentation, and the crowds are going nuts and Judge is doing his thing and this, to me, is the beauty of the WBC. When you have Aaron Judge doing his thing, and he called it playoff baseball in the month of March, which I absolutely agree with and I absolutely love. And Watching Paul Skeens last night on Fox, and there is a terrific crowd and the ambiance is great and it's just incredible watching him and he's doing his thing. And for the first time in his career, I feel like he's pitching in a big game because the Pirates just don't give a damn about baseball. And if you could fire the owner, that would obviously be something. The fact that he doesn't spend any money or give a damn about those incredible baseball fans in Pittsburgh, shameful. Absolutely, positively shameful. So watching Skeens do his thing was awesome and play to the crowd and popping the radar gun. I couldn't get enough. It was incredible. And then you take a look at our guy Bobby Witt Jr. and he's making plays. Those two back-to-back plays at shortstop. It was like Jeter-esque going into the hole between short and third, and that was incredible. And those throws across the diamond, just awesome. And Roman Anthony going yard. And I just love this team. I love watching them. Kevin Durant's tweeting up a storm, created a second burner account to say how much he loves Paul Skeens. The whole thing was terrific, and the WBC is so great for the buzz and the health of Major League Baseball. I don't think there's any question about that. Now, with that said, I want you to take a listen to what Tarik Skubal had to say.
I would love to pitch again, obviously, for Team USA, but there's some stuff that factors into it, routine, timing. The finals day itself kind of impacts opening day for the Tigers as well. So, I had a lot of conversations with the club, my agent, teammates here, teammates that are still in Lakeland, and the resounding kind of message was to kind of be done, but still be around the team as much as I can. My spring training start days were scripted out in January with the original plan being starting and then, being done. And obviously when I got here, my emotions kind of changed a little bit. My thought process changed a little bit and tried to make it work, but just couldn't, and I hate it, but it's all right. I'll be the first to sign up for the 28 Olympics or, whenever the next WBC is, I'll be the first to sign up for that one too. I think the guys on the field, I feel like I've been teammates with them for months already and we've known each other for a week or whatever. And just the guys they brought in to talk, and it just makes you really proud to be an American, and it's hard to walk away from, very hard. And I don't think I'm walking away. I guess I am, but I'll be back with the club for the semifinals and the finals. I'm going to make sure to be there and enjoy the moment with those guys. But it makes it difficult, when you get to be teammates with all these guys.
Listen, I've got such a problem with that. I will never rip a player for not participating, a professional player for not participating in Team USA or the Olympics. That's just the way I roll, whether it's hockey, whether it's basketball, whether it's the WBC. Our guy Bellinger didn't want to play. Fine. Everyone, goes about their way differently, and everyone gets ready for a season, or for the basketball players, deals with an off-season differently, or for hockey players, deal with a mid-season differently. You handle your business. I will never get involved in that. But for Skubal, this is pretty crystal clear. This is all about money. And that bothered me. Absolutely bothered me. Because if you wanted to be there helping Team USA, you could be there. Skubal's the second best pitcher in baseball, right? And you could argue he's number one. Skubal, Skeens, Skubal. And obviously for Team USA, that's great. He tried to play the whole woe is me with regards to, oh, I wish I could be there. This was the plan. He's in a contract here. So whether this is him, his agent, A.J. Hinch, the Tigers, this is garbage, okay? Let's call it like it is with regards to Skubal. If you don't want to be there, don't show up. Don't do this halfway and don't play, oh, I wish I could be there, wish I could help the team. It's the lying that really bothers me when it comes to Tarik Skubal. I thought that was amateur hour. Look, you don't want to be part of this amazing event, that's on you. You don't want to be part of this amazing team, that's on you. That is a terrible job with the commentary from Tarik Skubal on the WBC. Meanwhile, it's time to shine on football. We are going to get into the New York Jets. And let me tell you something. If you are a fan of the Jets, you have to be absolutely thrilled. And you look at the back page here Oh, well, hold on. My guy Rich is telling me we have some breaking news. What do we got, Rich? Oh, I love this. The Jets are trading for Geno? For Geno Smith? Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something right now. And anyone who doesn't like this, you don't know ball. Okay, let me tell you. First of all, I want to go all the way back. Go back to the draft where Geno was coming out of West Virginia. First of all, he was supposed to be a first-round pick. He wasn't. Jets got him at the start of the second round of the draft. Okay, that's how that ultimately goes. I was always a Geno Smith fan. In fact, you know the Twitter, Instagram accounts, our guy Fred Siegel, Freezing Cold Takes, everyone knows it. He wrote about my Geno take in his book when I said Geno was going to be a franchise quarterback. Hey, Freddie, still waiting for the retraction because clearly he turned out to be a franchise quarterback. Turned out to be a franchise quarterback with the Seattle Seahawks and did a hell of a job. Last year, when you look at it in Vegas, and we talked about how the Raiders improved, look, that offensive line was a mess. There was no continuity from the GM to the owner to the coach. To, Chip Kelly's calling the plays. Pete Carroll didn't even want him there. You had Pete's kid coaching the offensive line. Geno Smith can play, okay? Geno Smith can absolutely play. So I will always and forever believe the Jets' playoff droughts would have ultimately been broken, and Ryan Fitzpatrick ended up having a great year, Brandon Marshall, 2015, if IK Enemkpali didn't slug Geno Smith in the face. They absolutely would have made the playoffs, and everything would have changed in 2015 if Geno Smith was the Jets quarterback. So how about this? Our guy from the Post, Brian Costello, all over it. Geno Smith, you can go home again. Traded to the Jets. Listen, I thought that Minnesota made a lot of sense. I thought that Indianapolis made a lot of sense. I thought Atlanta made a lot of sense. And I thought the Jets, these are the four teams that I've been saying on my SiriusXM radio show that I thought made a lot of sense when you look at it here for the Geno Smith acquisition. So I really think that when you look at it and analyze this trade, I love this. I mean, this is terrific here. Absolutely terrific. So Geno Smith is going to the Jets. You can go home again. You know what? And I'll tell you something. I was prepared to go nuts if Carson Wentz was the quarterback for this team. Okay? I don't know what year it is. I don't know if this, was 2017 before he ripped up his knee. Carson Wentz, I don't care about Frank Reich. That was a non-starter, a complete and utter non-starter. This is terrific. By the way, Jets are having a great start to the offseason. Jets are having, I will go take a look right now at the back page from the Post today, okay? You start thinking about it, you start looking about it. The New York vets, and this adds to it, right? Look at these dudes. Look at these names. The New York Jets and Muji are adding adults in the room. So I feel compelled. It's our first Shine Time show, right? So I think it's important here to kind of go back a little bit, right? And, kind of ultimately reset. I love the Aaron Glenn hire. Absolutely loved it. I thought it would be akin to D'Amico Ryans in Houston, where, former player, great assistant, and I was campaigning for D'Amico to be a head coach for a long time, and he got the job, and he was fantastic. Same with Aaron Glenn in New Orleans and Detroit. And I thought, you go back to your old organization, and you know where the bodies are buried, right? Like, the good, the bad, everything that goes into the mix and into the equation. And honestly, look at these names here. I got to give them credit. And now Glenn, who was awful last year, didn't do anything right, terrible in game, terrible with the press, terrible with the quarterbacks. He's adding adults. Demario Davis, he goes home to the Jets. And he's 37, but he's still a lot of gas left in the tank. They get edge rushers. That's absolutely incredible. And, I love everything that we're seeing. So the official details on the trade: Geno and a 2026 seventh-round pick to the Jets, and the Jets trade a 2026 sixth-round pick to the Vegas Raiders. So here are the official details on the trade. Man, I love this. Absolutely love this. Just a tremendous job by the Jets. And, as it said on the screen, Jets are doing smart things. I'm Ron Burgundy. Let's give credit here where credit is due. How about the Jets getting Geno Smith? I mean, you could have punched me in the face. I was so surprised by that. Absolutely incredible. Now, the Buffalo Bills are still the team to beat in the division, not New England. Buffalo Bills. That DJ Moore pickup was unbelievable. And I don't want to hear that Buffalo gave up too much, right? Second-round pick is a late second-round pick. DJ Moore, a tough and clutch ball player. Obviously, Bears fans know it better than anybody here. When you take a look at the ability to go out and beat Green Bay and absolutely rock and roll, I mean, doesn't get any better than that in terms of the game-winning go-ahead touchdowns, regular season, postseason. I spent a lot of time with DJ Moore. He's a great guy. Everyone loves him. He played for Joe Brady in Carolina. Josh Allen's going to love him. I had Connor McGovern, who they just re-signed, their center, on my SiriusXM radio show today. He said he was, about to leave because he hadn't had any communication with Brandon Beane of the Bills organization. He was thrilled and Moore was signed. And Josh Allen got involved in making sure that DJ Moore was part of the organization, and Connor McGovern was back and ready to rock and roll. So I love this. I think this is one of the great moves when you look at it here in the offseason. This was terrific. Let's make sure we give proper credit where credit is due. And, man, I am just so fired up as someone who would love to see the fans of lovely Western New York win a Super Bowl. They are doing all the right things here for the Buffalo Bills, re-signing McGovern, DJ Moore. What a pickup. And I think that, I'm ready to jump through a table. Last year I picked Rams-Bills. Preseason pick for the Super Bowl might be my pick once again for 2026. The Atlanta Falcons signed Tua Tagovailoa, and it begs the follow-up question. Why? And I love my guy, Matt Ryan, and I love Ian Cunningham, and I love, obviously, our guy, Kevin Stefanski, who I think is a terrific, terrific offensive mind and head coach. But, I can at least wrap my brain around the fact that, okay, Tua Tagovailoa is a lefty, and Michael Penix Jr. is a lefty, so they'll structure everything in the proper way. You don't have to mess around with blindside, not blindside, depending upon who's in at quarterback. And Michael Penix Jr. is not healthy, and Kirk Cousins is, not the answer. So, look, at the end of the day here, I think that I could at least appreciate the mentality here for the Atlanta Falcons, but look, I just think Tua is bad at football. And, I was doing the updates last year for the NFL and CBS, and I'm doing an update on the second interception that Tua threw, and then, bam, he threw his third interception during my update on the second interception. I mean, that's who he is. The numbers are terrible, and the feel is terrible, and the Dolphins paid him $99 million in dead cap money. $99 million in dead cap money to go away. That tells you all you need to know. Malik Willis is the new Dolphins quarterback, and listen, they are doing things the right way. They have figuratively, not literally, that would be a crime, locked Stephen Ross, the owner, in a closet. They're able to, at the end of the day, have, JES, John Eric Sullivan, the new GM, and Jeff Hafley, the new coach, who they both come from Green Bay. They bring in Willis from Green Bay. That's unbelievable stuff. I love every single second here of what I've seen from this football team, just in terms of a plan. Dolphins are going to be dreadful this year. The Jets should be better, frankly, than the Miami Dolphins, especially with the breaking news that they just got Geno Smith to complement all those really nice defensive pieces that they got in free agency yesterday. And how about the Pittsburgh Steelers? I love what Pittsburgh has done. Pittsburgh's off to a terrific, terrific start. Michael Pittman was, put on planet Earth to be a physical, tough receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. What a steal that was, getting him from the Indianapolis Colts. Colts screwed it all up with the Alec Pierce contract, and they're waiting for Daniel Jones like he's some kind of second coming, which makes absolutely no sense to me. Pittman, terrific. Rico Dowdle, I love that move. They lost Gainwell. Dowdle really emerged in Carolina and frankly broke through in 2024 for the Cowboys when his head coach was Mike McCarthy, who's now the head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we're fired up about this. I want Aaron Rodgers back on that team in the worst possible way. And take a look at the odds here when it comes to the AFC North winner. I'm telling you, if you want to look at it, okay, for a good early bet to bank, and I love the Baltimore trade for Max Crosby, and the Bengals are having a terrific start to their offseason, I'm telling you right here, right now, especially if you can get it on DraftKings, and I can, and I will, and I did, plus 450, do not sleep here. Do not sleep on the Pittsburgh Steelers if and when Aaron Rodgers comes back winning the division. Time now for our first ever guest on Shine Time. This interview is presented by No Bull. For people who train hard, compete harder, and bring that same relentless mindset every single day.
It's a St. John's sequel for the first time in 40 years. The St. John's Red Storm have won back-to-back Big East regular season titles.
We have won back-to-back championships with two different teams, and that's not easy to do. I'm real proud to St. John's, very proud for the players. It was a great win. Enjoying this tonight. The players are really fired up. They're very, very excited.
Joining us is our first ever guest here on Shine Time, the Hall of Famer, the outstanding head coach at St. John's, my guy, the great Rick Pitino. Coach, how are you? Appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Listen, I think that your squad this year is incredible. One of the best teams in college hoops, and your Johnnies win 16 of 17 down the stretch. Feels like a lifetime ago you started 4-3. What changed? What has impressed you the most about your squad?
You know, every year I think it's going to be difficult to be terrific early on. First year we had 11 new players. This year we have 9 new players. Next year we'll have 8 or 9 again. So it's difficult to really mesh early in the year. You can schedule easy and and really not tell anything about your team, or you can schedule difficult as we did early in the season, play great competition, see where your blemishes are after playing them, and then work at those.
The one loss down the stretch was UConn. It was ugly, and you weren't happy postgame, and it was vintage Rick Pitino. I loved every single second of it. But wow, did your team respond in the final 3, including destroying Villanova the game after UConn? What was the lesson you wanted your team to learn, and what did you learn about your team?
Well, we had a great walkthrough the day of the game, great practice leading up to it. We were prepared, but they were better at every phase of the game. They were hurting from the loss at home, and they came out with great fire. The crowd was incredible, and I was very soft-spoken in the locker room. I said, let's talk tomorrow. And the next day came, and all I said to them was, it's the first time in 3 years I didn't watch the film. I said, but you know, when I was at Louisville, we lost to Providence by 31 and went to a Final Four, and we lost to Notre Dame by 32 and went to an Elite Eight. So I said, throw the game out. I said, the only thing you can do to make up for that loss is beat Villanova. And they went out and did a great job against Villanova.
Listen, terrific job by you, the players, and obviously Zuby Ejiofor. I mean, he is unreal. Coach, I love watching him play. I mean, his work ethic, his intensity, his defense. He's so reliable on offense, unselfish. Just named the Defensive Player of the Year in the Big East, and deservedly so. How would you describe how special he is? What makes him so great and a joy to coach?
Well, obviously you want your players to reach their potential. And when he came in, his hands weren't great, wasn't a terrific shooter, wasn't a really good passer. Now he leads the team in assists, rebounds, scoring, and block shots. He's the Defensive Player of the Year, first team All Big East. And I think tomorrow he's going to win Scholar Athlete of the Year, possibly, as well as Player of the Year. So it's been quite a trip for Zuby.
Your smile when you started describing how, he didn't have those hands. I mean, it's incredible. And I know the way you coach and you help your players. And let's get into this because I think he should be unequivocally the Big East Player of the Year. He would become the first Johnny player to be the Player of the Year and the Defensive Player in the same season. Only 7 players in conference history have done that. The last one was Josh Hart in 2017. So the floor is yours. What's the case for him as the Player of the Year in the conference?
Well, I'd be honest with you. He was a unanimous first-team pick. So I think it's not announced yet, but I think he's definitely going to win it. He's just been remarkable, great leader. He coaches in the timeouts more than any assistant coach.
Wow.
When I'm done speaking, he says things. And he says, don't let up, win this next 4-minute segment. Defensively, you have to talk better. He's always got a great message at the end of every timeout.
Every level you've been a coach, defense is a staple. Best defense in the Big East, 14th in certain metrics in the country. What makes this version so good on defense?
Well, we've gotten better each week. Last year's team was great defensively because we had Kadari Richmond at the point, and we could switch the 5 onto the 1 and the 1 onto the 5. And even Davon Smith at 6 feet was physically tough. We can't do that, obviously, with Dylan Darling or Ian Jackson, but we still can switch 2, 3, and 4, 5 without any problem at all. When you could switch like that, it helps your defense.
Coach, you just referenced him. Steve Serby in the Post just had a terrific Q&A on Sunday with Dylan Darling. How would you describe what he's brought to the team this year?
Well, Dylan he had to get adjusted to the Big Sky to the Big East, where physical play is much more prevalent. And he's just, we call him Big Bells because he has them. And we now have an award I ring a church bell at the end, and we give the Big Bells Award to the guy who made a big difference in that game. And Ruben Prey won it against Seton Hall. Zuby won it the time before, and Big Bells has won it twice.
Listen, you referenced it at the beginning of our conversation like it was just matter of fact, from this year to next year to last year to this year. You really are the master of the transfer portal. And, a lot of coaches, in all different college sports can complain about things. How do you do it so well? What's the key?
Well, it is really difficult because you're watching all types of film in a very short window. You're speaking to agents. You're not sure who's going in the portal. So you've got to get 3 or 4 at each position. Then you've got to understand the work ethic. That's the number one key. Is he willing to pay the price to work? And if he is, then you have a good chance. Often players will ask me, can you get me to the NBA level? And I always say, absolutely not. I can get you to reach your potential. If that's good enough for the NBA, they will decide that. And it's up to the Knicks, it's up to the Celtics, it's up to the San Antonio Spurs. They determine whether you're a draft choice. But we will get you to reach your potential.
There's nothing like the Big East tournaments at Madison Square Garden. It's just an amazing New York sporting event. How do you describe the ambiance? And also for St. John's, the significance?
Well, let me say this. It's last year, it was as good a feeling as I've ever had as a basketball coach. And we won at Louisville back-to-back Big East championships. But it was never as good as St. John's because there was such a drought, such a long time. There was such happiness amongst the administration, amongst the student body, amongst the fans, that it was great to be part of that.
I've always been of the opinion they should move the 1 seed to a night game instead of noon. Just a little nitpick. Where do you stand on that? I'm curious, especially as a 1 seed.
I haven't thought about that, but that's a great point. You're probably right. I think being at the 6:30 game for your fans, it would be better for the fans. I like it as far as the team is concerned, playing at 12 o'clock. From a scouting standpoint, it helps us prepare for the next day. We have more time.
If you win the Big East, what seed do you feel like St. John should get in the NCAA tournament?
Probably a 4 seed. I think that's realistic.
Yeah, I agree. And frankly, I think you're a 4 seed anyway, but I think a 4 seed makes sense. How would you characterize the play of the Big East Conference this year in terms of the overall competition and getting you guys ready for the NCAA tournament?
Well, it's a tough conference in terms of the coaches do an unbelievable job of preparation, but the conference is down. There's no question about it. Certainly Villanova's up, DePaul is up, but Providence on any given night, they've got as much talent as any Big East team, and they can beat you, but the conference is definitely down. We need Georgetown to come back. We need Providence to come back. We need Butler and some of the other teams, Xavier, to come back. We need it. And look, let's face it, there are 5 or 6 teams in the conference spending $10 million on the NIL, and then there's the Shaheen Holloway, who's probably going to be coach of the year. He's spending $5 million, half. My son Richard spending half. Butler spending half. So we need to get those other guys up where Creighton and Georgetown and Providence and Villanova and us and Connecticut certainly are, then you'll see a better conference.
Yeah, I echo that completely. Now, you reference Richard. He's sensational. Look, Providence is, family business. If he asked you for an opinion, would you tell him to take the Providence job?
He can't take the Providence job. He loves his alma mater, but he can't. He has a gigantic buyout. And also, he would never leave a job after 1 year. He just doesn't believe in that. He loves the town of Cincinnati, the city of Cincinnati, but he would never, ever leave Xavier after 1 year. He wants to rebuild that up. Certainly, he loves living there, and although he loves Providence and it is his alma mater, and he's like me. I absolutely love PC, one of my favorite jobs of all time.
So officially, we could take him out of that conversation.
Yeah, he's not even a candidate.
Perfect. Great. Jim Boeheim once told me, our mutual friend, you are the best X's and O's coach that has ever coached in college basketball. What's your reaction to that?
Well, it's very nice. Probably not true, but it's very nice. I think what the culture that we bring to the table is we try not to leave any stone unturned. We try to get every player development during the mornings to get them to their highest point. We try to turn over every scouting, every analytic to get ready for an opponent. But there are a lot of great coaches in our game. I think that the way you have to look at it is you got to love the game. You got to eat, sleep, and drink the game. You got to put players first. And if you do all that, you'll be successful.
I always love talking to Boeheim about teams that can actually cut down the nets. I think college basketball is in great hands right now, a lot of great teams. I see about 12, 13, including St. John's, that could win the entire thing. Big picture landscape in college basketball, how many can ultimately win a title this year?
Well, you bring up some great points. I think the last 2 years in college basketball, because of the NIL, kids not moving on, the foreign influence, instead of going to the EuroLeague, they come to college because we can pay them better.
That's right.
So the talent on the court is the best I've seen the last 2 years. So I look at different tiers. I think right now Duke, Michigan, Arizona, and Florida, they're the top four in their tier. Then you have the next tier of teams like UConn, Illinois, certainly Houston. And then you have the third tier. I'm probably missing one or two there. And the third tier, I would put us, and teams like us, like Gonzaga, teams like that could possibly get to a Final Four.
We're on the same page in terms of ranking those teams, and I agree with you completely on the tiers. All right, a couple of fun quickies to end this. How about the Yankees this year? I wanted a little bit more for our Yankees, my Yankees, your Yankees in the offseason. Know how much you love the Yankees. I'm a diehard fan. What do you think about our Yankees for this year?
Yeah, I wish they would have picked up the bottom of the lineup. I wish they had a little better hitting, certainly. The pitching hopefully gets healthy and we see our stars come back. Now the Giants are picking up great people. My guy Chris Mara is doing a phenomenal job there. They just got a great punter, linebacker. I think they're doing a phenomenal job. I wish the Yankees, the bottom third of the lineup, I wish was a little bit better, but maybe some of the young guys will come on.
I agree with you on both the Giants and the Yankees. Now, the last time I saw you was at Gus's in Harrison, and I love that place. So I'm curious, your favorite Westchester place to dine?
By far, Sergio's in Portchester. Great ambiance, festive. People are dancing. The music's great. The food is terrific. It's always packed. Sergio's without question.
All right, last one for you. You know, a little unknown fact. Every once in a while, we could play tennis with the same guy, our guy David Graham, when Ronnie brings you over to where we like to play. So give me a Rick Pitino tennis game scouting report.
Extremely mediocre. When I play Ron, he gives me, we start 40 love me, and I may win one game if he just hits it in the net. But Ron's a tremendous guy, and this summer all my grandkids went with Graham, and he did a fabulous job at teaching them. They were all on their high school tennis team. So, Ron is one of my best buddies right now, and we hang out almost daily.
Yeah, Ron's the best. His wife is a gem. My kid's pediatrician,
Dr.
so
Amy.
she is outstanding. So, Coach, listen, I'm thrilled for you. I'm thrilled for your family. Thrilled for St. John's basketball. Enjoy the Big East tournament, the NCAA tournament. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Great. Thanks for having me.
From a Hall of Fame coach to a Hall of Fame sports writer, joining us right now live here on Shine Time. He does an unbelievable job covering the Jets for the New York Post. He's our guy, the great Brian Costello. Kaz always knows. And Kaz, here it is. It's our first show, and we have breaking news. And I didn't have this on my bingo card today for Geno Smith to get traded back to the Jets. You could have knocked me over with the feather when this news broke. I mean, or an ncaa and Polly punch, depending upon how you want to go about it. I personally love it. Take me through everything here on Geno back to the Jets.
Yeah, well, thank you for that introduction, Adam. I kind of feel like this is like Jimi Hendrix opening up for the Monkees here with following Rick Pitino. But look, I think we've been over it a million times this offseason. The options at quarterback were not appealing for the Jets. There was not a lot of great options out there. There was no slam dunk that you're like, yeah, that's the way they should go. So I think as it started to round about, you looked at Geno Smith and you said, okay, that's probably better than what they can do on the open market with the guys that were scheduled to be free agents. Geno ends up getting traded to the Jets. I think he was going to be released tomorrow, but the Jets wanted to beat that. They were worried somebody else might swoop in after he got cut, so they made the trade today. I think you look at it and you say he's probably the best of a lot of bad options that the Jets had. I don't think anyone's going to look at this and go, oh, the Jets are going to the playoffs right now. He struggled last year in Vegas, but he's not that far removed from some good seasons in Seattle. And I think what happened here is ancient history. I don't think that's part of the equation anymore, Adam. Like, that's so long ago. There's very few people left in the Jets building from when Geno was here the last time. So it's gonna be a fun story. He's coming back to New York. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I totally agree with you. And look, you talk about bad options. I mean, I did not want Carson Wentz. I know all about Frank Reich. I don't care. Kirk Cousins, to me, see him on TV. I don't want him throwing passes. I mean, this, to me, there's logic attached. And Kaz, I got to give credit where credit is due. I felt like they needed vets on both sides of the ball. I thought the Jets, and we showed the back page of the Post earlier in the show, had a really solid plan yesterday. I liked what they did. Again, I'm not going nuts, and here's the back page. Yep. I'm not picking playoffs here, but I think that the Jets are off to a really smart, calculated start to the offseason.
Yeah, I agree. They're not going to parade here for this, but the Jets need to be a competent football team in 2026. That feels like a very low bar to put out there, but not if you watch the Jets. Right. That's not a low bar. That is something they could not achieve last year. Aaron Glenn, he needs this to save his job. And I think all eyes are now on 2027. They have been since the day they traded away Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams. And they have 3 first-round picks next year. Next year's draft, everyone says, is loaded. That's where they can find maybe finally the quarterback that can be here for 10 to 15 years and get this organization in where we are talking playoffs and Super Bowls and that kind of thing. But they got to get through 2026 first, and they can't be 3-14 again. They can't look like they did in that last month of the 2025 season where it was just they were getting blown out by the Bills' backups. Like, that can't happen. So I think what they did yesterday, Demario Davis, he's a great leader. Yep. Minka Fitzpatrick is going to, he's still a very good football player. He's going to help them as a leader. They add some to the defensive line. They're going to be better defensively now with those guys. And then now they got to focus on offense. And I think Geno, like we said, that's a good option of what they had. Now they got to address guard. They lost Elijah Vera Tucker. They lost John Simpson. They need a second receiver here somewhere, probably in the draft, maybe a trade. And then you're kind of off and rolling. And I think then you're hoping to see a competent football team. Maybe they win 7-8 games and they draft a quarterback next year.
It's interesting, and you referenced it, and I loved the Aaron Glenn hire, and for last season, I could not have been more wrong. Like, I thought it was going to be equivalent to what DeMeco Ryans was in Houston. Former player, great assistant. knows the good and bad of the organization, right? Knows how to come, and it was a complete and utter fiasco. So you say competent team, wins 6, 7, 8 games, whatever it is. I mean, do we enter this season, Kaz, and Aaron Glenn is on the hot seat?
Yeah, I think so. I don't see how he can't be after 3 wins. I think you have to be on the hot seat. That being said, I think the realistic thing is if he wins 6 or 7 games, he's back. That's not always the case when you're on the hot seat. I don't think this is a case of he has to go to the playoffs to keep his job. Again, I think Woody Johnson is going to be looking for signs that he's the right guy. He can field a competent team, and they won't look like they looked like in his first season.
Kaz, you're the best. I mean, honestly, this is what you live for. Debut of Shine Time, and we have our guy, Brian Costello, the best in the business, the first post writer, whether it's California or New York, on our show.
Oh, wow.
Couldn't draw it up any better. So we're going to put that down in the history books. We have that written on the cards. We're going to retire it here in the studio. So congrats, Kaz, and as always, appreciate it.
All right, Shine. Good luck with the show. We're happy to have you aboard.
Thanks, man. Ah, yes, we're California dreaming. And this is the beauty, right? So when it comes to the start of the NFL free agency period, all teams can dream. Dream big. But how many is the dream a reality? Well, on our first ever edition of Shine Time, and our first ever California Dreamin', we are dreaming about an all-LA Super Bowl in Los Angeles. And I think it's very realistic when you take a look at the Rams and the Chargers and what these teams have done. I want to start with the LA Rams. In my opinion, no team is off to a better start in this entire offseason in terms of seeing a problem and fixing a problem than the LA Rams. Trent McDuffie is an unbelievable player. I still can't believe Les Snead, the great GM for the Rams, was able to pull this puppy off. It was a combination of what he likes to say, F them picks, and I'll say win them championships, and getting Trent McDuffie. Remember, they had 2 first-round picks after they were able to just pilfer one in a lopsided deal that, got everyone fired in Atlanta last year on draft day. Trent McDuffie is one of the 4 best corners in the NFL. That is a sensational, sensational move. And what I love about this Rams organization, and you love if you're a Rams fan, see a problem, fix a problem. They don't mess around. They don't wait. They understand that there is a standard of being truly in the mix for a Super Bowl with an opportunity to win it. Look, they had a golden opportunity to beat the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle on Championship Sunday, golden opportunity to beat them in the regular season on that Thursday night, which would have helped them win the division, get home playoff games. And obviously, if they beat Seattle on Championship Sunday, they would have beaten New England, won another championship. So that's the goal. And getting someone like McDuffie after Jackson Smith and Jigba ran wild on them on Championship Sunday, monster win for Chris Shula and the defensive coordinator. And look, what I love about Les Snead, they don't even wait. They go out and get another member of the Kansas City Chiefs, Watson, in that defensive backfield. That was terrific. They made sure to pay Cam Curl, who is a terrific safety. Higbee comes back, and Sean McVay loves playing the 13 personnel. I've talked to McVay at length about this on my SiriusXM radio show. And listen, I just think Matthew Stafford is our first ballot Hall of Famer, the MVP. Devontae Adams was unbelievable last year. They run the ball with authority with a couple of running backs. Puka Nacua is one of the 2-3 best wide receivers in the game. Verse and that defense, absolutely awesome. The only area of weakness, they absolutely slammed it out of the park. This organization, to me, one of the best in all of professional North American sports. That's what I see when I take a look at ownership, Kevin Demoff, Les Snead, Sean McVay, and the entire Rams organization. So to me, this offseason was everything you want it to be if you're a Rams fan. And look, if you're a Chargers fan, you're California dreaming too. I think right now, when you look at the offseason the Chargers have had, and I'm going to include Mike McDaniel here as the offensive coordinator, they get a blocking tight end. They bring back, return of the Mac, Khalil Mack, which I absolutely love. They get one of the best centers available. They improve the offensive line. And remember, Joe Alt is coming back. Rashawn Slater, who's unbelievable, didn't play a down last year. So they lost both their bookend tackles from a year ago, and obviously Slater didn't play, as I mentioned, at all last campaign. So they're going to have an entirely new offensive line in a major way. Now, there's monster pressure on Justin Herbert. I have always been a Justin Herbert fan and believer, and listen, I built the Justin Herbert bandwagon with my bare hands coming out of Oregon. He's been really good to great. He needs to play better in big games. Not all of it, obviously, is his fault. Injuries and insanity around him. But I think the Chargers are at least the favorite in the AFC West. Not the Raiders, not the big bad Chiefs, not the Denver Broncos. I think the Chargers today are the favorites there. And if you take a look at the DraftKings Super Bowl odds, we're talking about the Chargers and the Rams both being considered elite teams and legitimate favorites. I mean, get the Chiefs off that list, right? If I was ranking the teams right now in the AFC, I would put Buffalo number 1 and the LA Chargers number 2, which means that if I was doing a ranking, I would have the LA Rams number 1 in the NFC, and I would have the LA Chargers number 2 in the AFC. So Rams number 1 in the NFC, Chargers number 2 in the AFC. So California dreaming about an all LA Super Bowl in Los Angeles. I think that dream can ultimately be a reality. We're going to finish Shine Time in a big way. Ah, yes. Let's finish big on Shine Time.
Correndo pro meio, é pra ele, pro 10 do Cruzeiro, entra na área, bateu, a bola desvia, Everson pegou! Segura o Everson, que depois se estranha com o Christian, bate boca, sobe em cima do Christian, aí o Everson perde a cabeça, hein? O Everson perde a cabeça, os jogadores se estranham, brigam ali na área, olha só, não podia terminar assim, hein? Não podia terminar assim. Aí tá todo mundo errado. Olha como vai terminando o jogo. Do Cruzeiro, vão pra cima do Lianco. O Lianco troca socos ali com o Gerson.
Tava de olho aqui no Dudu com o Fagner, tentando apaziguar. Saíram abraçados agora os dois.
I'll tell you, I love seeing that. It's the viral video. I always want to show you viral videos on the California Post Sports YouTube page and the New York Post Sports YouTube page. And that's where you can watch our show every single day. So we are obviously pumped to be here. And what a phenomenal first show. And listen, we are finishing in a big way as we promised. And we're going to make sure we do this every single night here on Shine Time. Here's what I'm betting on tonight, right? You know, I'm talking about like, you know, what you find in the couch cushions, right? I'm very into the college hoops, and I'm rolling with Siena tonight. We have Gonzaga. Siena, by the way, Jerry McNamara. Go Cuse. Texas will lay the 5.5, and Lehigh, baby. Let's go. We're not messing around. Lehigh on the money line at plus 105. And here's what I'm watching tonight. I am obsessed. My wife Katie and I are obsessed with Love Story. It is unbelievable. So we can't stop watching. I've got so many things that we're watching. I love watching so many different shows. But Love Story and Aaron Judge and the WBC, that's what we're going to be watching tonight. What a show. My goodness. Thanks to everybody with the New York Post and the California Post. And thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting and tweeting. And my goodness, I am so fired up to be here. And we'll see you tomorrow on Shine Time.